So welcome everybody. I'm here to analyze the game between fwwwwibib, or as I like to call them, fw4ib2, and NohatCoder. This was the first game in their series of two games. I'm just going to analyze this one though, because this one's the more interesting of the two in my opinion. And I don't want to spoil the results, but this game was the more important of the two. That probably spoils it, but so be it. So this game starts off with no head is black, and FW opens up with this, and a slightly unusual move here in D4, mainly because of what no head played in the game. D3 cap is just such a natural move to fill in this gap with your own capstone. It's not necessarily bad as an opening, and in any case, I'm not going to discuss opening theory too much here. So here, sort of crowding this, and no head commits to taking D4. Note that he is still technically behind a tempo. Or excuse me, no he isn't. Because white to move, white, black. So he's now up a tempo. So that's why cap B3, preparing to cut no head off and build in this direction. So E5, and FW plays E6, which is seems a little bit unusual here, a little bit unusually passive. I would expect one of these squares to be filled in by white, because they've already shown that they're basically committed to taking this way with their cap at some point. So I would more expect that to occur. But he decides to play E6. It's not a bad move necessarily. It's again just slightly unusual. And D6 is the natural response, threatening to capture in this direction at any point. If no head does intend to go this direction from 1 to 6, which I'm sure he will at some point. D3, natural, E3, E2, and F3. So this sequence, they just extend their threats a little bit. But after F3, no head is extending this way, and he also says tack. So he forces white's hand in the east-west direction, and he plays the move we expected. He takes this with his capstone, but now no head can proceed and take F2, which is a bit of a concession from FW, because after this sequence and takes, no head's now got quite a sizable threat going in this direction. Yes, it can be parried. He can take with E6, but no head's always going to be able to build this back up. If he takes with E6, no head plays E6, and he basically just fills in the space left behind. And this D5 stack is a little weak because it's got this white underneath, but with his capstone in proximity with it, it's probably not a concern. And in any case, there's no time to immediately wall. So something must be done, and FW chooses this move. He chooses E2 minus, which it's an intriguing move because yes, it cuts black's threat. It cuts off black's threat, and it sort of builds your own, but this E1 stack could very easily become a liability in the coming moves. And no hat plays E2, which I thought was slightly curious. Really trying to fortify this group of stones. I wondered about white just playing D1. but after F2 minus, it's Nohat saying tack in two directions. Here, I'll show that. So here, and now all of a sudden there's a tack threat here and this way, and you can't capture. But again, you can always sever the threat, at least temporarily, by taking on E6. But I can see why FW did not go for this line. Undo. There's probably a better way of doing this, but I'm not super familiar with PTN Ninja. So anyway, he actually played in the game F4 wall, which the wall position's very strong. You can see that he's aiming for E4 because this is the connection. This is the point where that the black threats are hinged around. Both the north, south, and east, west threat sort of revolve around this. Now, if FW does get control of E4, Nohat can circumvent that, but it will be an annoyance for sure. Nohat plays takes, which is an annoyingly clever move for the same reasons as the line we discussed before this. F1 cannot take because it's pinned, and you can't wall because of this threat, and this also loses, so there's actually no way to parry this in an easy way. So he takes on E4, E5, extending, and white uses the fact that the pin is broken to take on E1. Which seems logical. It's hard for black to justify playing a wall anywhere in this area to try to hunt down E1, because E1 can always run away to the left with relative ease, and the wall will be a major liability for black. So F1 it is, threatening to crush E4. FW of course sees this, and he runs south, which is logical, but it does offer another obvious threat that Nohat can build. Pretty much any move in this vicinity is tack. Nohat goes with F5. Which is probably the best threat, because white cannot wall because it can be crushed by the cap, and that's a road. And it's the most direct way of extending this threat, which is something we'll see in a move or so. So white takes here. You can't feel... Obviously having these weak stacks over here is a liability for white, but white doesn't really have a choice, and with his own wall in the vicinity, it's hopefully not too big of a liability, or at least white will be hoping that it isn't. B6 says tack and forces a response from white. The obvious move is to play something like C6, which he does. I have looked at this game, by the way, but I can't remember every move. But Nohat takes, and takes. And these sorts of stacks are can be called, or maybe not stacks, but like stacks and positions can be seen as one of the true essences of tack. And it's not immediately obvious if this stack can be profitably attacked by a wall. But it's hard not to play a wall here because the threat itself is strong. So FW chooses to wall c5. Walling d6 was also an option. In the event of walls d6, I'm not sure what black's best move would be. Because running away is not so enticing. You can run away this way, but that doesn't accomplish too much. It doesn't even increase your flat count. Nor does running away this way do anything too special, and that offers that stack to the white cap, so that's definitely not appealing. Perhaps white was concerned about this wall being crushed immediately, but this just looks too extreme. There's almost no way this move is any good. At least that seems to be the case. White just has too much pressure on the board, and I think the tempi black will have to spend to regain these stones is not worth it. Makes this position very bad for black, I would reckon. So let's undo to restore the actual game. Undo. We'll get there eventually, I hope. Undo. Good. Okay. So takes. But after wall c5, black runs away in this direction. And yep, those are definitely weak groups, but it's difficult for white to immediately exploit them anyway, because suppose walls f6, black can at very least gain a tempo by threatening the road, because nothing this wall can do really stops it in its entirety. And black's cap is standing by, and it's not really burdened by captives in this position. It's got one captive, and this captive really isn't critical of the position, at least not at the moment. So here white says b6, and in this position white says, okay, I am down 2 flats, which is something, but white has walls on the board. This wall is probably, well, it's not a huge asset. I don't want to say it's a liability, because it could be used in protecting these weak groups. He's got this wall, and he has this wall. This wall is clearly poised to do something if it can get in a position where Nohat can't crush it. But here white says, okay, I'm down 2 flats, but I have this nice threat growing here, and I've effectively severed the black threat, at least for the moment. So white has compensation for his 2 flats, certainly. Nohat goes on the defensive, and c2, which is oddly reminiscent of Nohat's move, where he built up this group of 4 before extending to make a proper threat. And yeah, this is growing quite threatening for black. b2, b1, and the first wall drops. And this wall is more so aimed at these weak groups, but it also exerts some some semblance of control over this center group of whites if it needs to. White's position is not dominating here because a6 always prevents it prevents immediate victory from this road down here, but this is still somewhat annoying for black. Black takes. Now a3, the first actual road threat here, and he takes this way. Throwing the stack this way is somewhat appealing because it actually stops the road threat, but I don't think Nohat could take his eyes off the weak f1 stack, so he just decided to take this way. After a6, walls a5 is sort of forced. Just putting a flat there doesn't seem strong enough, especially with this white wall standing by. So walls it is, and now if we look at the flat count, white has improved slightly, but of course the e1 stack is always threatening to swing the flat count back toward Nohat. Takes, Nohat chases, and he runs this way, which is a bit, it looks double-edged, but with the white wall standing by, I can see why he did it, certainly. And black plays here this move. I'm not entirely sure about this recapture. It's the obvious recapture to make because clearly you have to do something in this position. You cannot allow white to have another move if you just do nothing here. Then this, and black is in deep trouble because this is even protected. Yes, black can take and like wall, but white can afford to wall and just block this group in, and I don't think this is worth it for black. I have to undo. Once more. Once more, apparently. Really? I don't remember making that many moves, but okay. So what Nohat did was take this way. I looked at potentially playing this, and I think it was a real alternative. But this just doesn't look like enough for black because the threat is really linear, and it's not really easy to retake these flats. So I can see why he didn't do that, but it is a sort of attractive it's an attractive attempt. I'm probably gonna have to hit undo like 6 or 7 times here. Nope. Okay. So Nohat plays this instead, and walls. Nohat finally takes the f1 stack. I think it might have been slightly better to leave a black flat on f1, because you see after this exchange, takes and walls, the black can never move this stack profitably. Because as soon as he tries to move this way, white will just get a free wall on e2, and throwing vertically offers no profit. He could potentially look at throwing it here with the clever trick of being able to crush it, but White always mates that with f1, and Black really hasn't gained much. So a6 it is tack from this stack. And White plays this move, which is an important move. It temporarily cedes a flat, but if White takes it this way, Black will crush that without hesitation, and that will be tack in this direction. White must respond to that, and Black has this massive stack, and that is no good. So this way is slower. It doesn't actually cost you a flat because well, it depends on how you throw the stack. So it may not necessarily cost you a flat. So he takes this way, and then a2 is starting to build in this direction, and also helping to weaken White's vertical threats. White increases their vertical threats. Black takes this way, which is at first sight a little weird, but you can't really allow White to take this c4. It's just too good. Or at the very least it's more to calculate, so this capture is probably fine. And all of the stones in this area are White, so you don't have to be too concerned about walls taking it over. White finally takes on d6. Black plays this move, which is hinting at taking on e3. And White runs away and plays this, which I think may have caught Nohat by surprise. I'm not entirely sure. But it seems to be a good move to me. The reason it would take him by surprise is it's a kind of normal thing to throw your wall stack to try to capture all of those captives, but these captives are already sort of won because they've been wrangled in by this wall. So that's why I think that was somewhat surprising to Nohat, but it's actually quite a good move because this stack was getting so big that it was becoming somewhat cumbersome. And I think this move is quite strong, getting out of Black's way and giving them these stacks he really can't work with. Black finally takes f2 and White just walls. This is a free wall because Black doesn't gain anything by moving this way, so I mean he doesn't gain anything in terms of flat count, so that's really fine for White. And here the White simply blunders. He misses that that this is a threat, which is a very, very easy thing to miss, especially on move 38. And not really sure what he was aiming at with f5 anyway. Probably just, I don't know. f5 doesn't make a whole lot of sense in either case. I guess trying to hint at threatening this direction, but it's never really going to happen. So Nohat wins. But I'm less interested in how the game actually ended than this position here, which I think is a very intriguing position. So White is down 3 flats, but it is White's move, so we can make it be down, fewer than that. He has to respond to this tack threat, but the obvious response is this, which all of a sudden evens up the flat count if you consider that it's Black to move. And it looks like quite an interesting position. It's hard to see black gaining much here. Black doesn't, or white doesn't have really any weak groups except for this one. And though neither does black. Black only has this, and white is going to be very hesitant to capture this because the crush could work in many cases. But in any case, we reach a very balanced position where black can consider e3 making tack again, but white can just sidestep and go down, and black hasn't really gained too much by making essentially the same threat. White wouldn't want to take here because the crush is way too threatening, I think. So I threw this position, well, actually this position, but the attackers concluded the same thing. This is the only move that makes sense. So it might as well have been this position into attacker's spot, and it spit out kind of an interesting line. It said after this, black can respond with this move, which does increase the flat count by 1. And yes, I did just say that throwing the wall would never be profitable. But the thing about this position is white has actually given up e5. The e5 stack is now weak, and the bot actually suggests you make this really odd-looking trade, for this symmetrical trade for these two groups, and then it suggests white should throw down this way, which I disagree with. I don't think this move is very natural because the bot says you can do this, which is correct, and then it says e4 and some weird move for black, but the real move for black has to be this. I mean, come on. This move is too good for black, I think. I mean, white could conceivably play this, trying to trap this group, but I'm not really convinced that it has any merit. Maybe some sort of hinting at attack here, but, well, okay, that move doesn't work because of this, but this, yeah, the problem with this capture is then you give up f2. Black could even immediately take here, and after white walls again, that's no good. So white can't even wall here. White would have to do something sad like this, and then that's game over. So this position is actually Tinue, isn't it? Because this threat is too strong. I accidentally placed a white there. This threat and this threat cannot be parried, so white can't even do that. Running away to f1 perhaps, but even if white even if black can't crush this, which I'm somewhat doubtful that black can't crush that. But no, not this. At least this move offers up some profit for black. And if white plays anything, black can eventually do this and level the field. But in any case, it's a very interesting position. Personally, I don't think this double wall gambit-y kind of thing is the natural thing to do, especially not in a tournament game. But I would still play this, and after say e3 and this is the move that I said makes sense. It's a position where I think actually white is slightly better, and the computer, even with its goofy lines, approves. Although I don't really trust the computer evaluations in relatively complicated positions. But oh wait, this is the wrong line. It's supposed to be walls and then d4 first. Sorry, I was showing the wrong position. This move. I was like, why is f2 just free to roam? No, you have to wall here. And then he played this, which says tack. And then this is my response to the tack. Sorry about that. So after e3 here, white and black have a very balanced position. Let's see the number of tiles. There's white, black, white, black, white, black, white. So the remaining empty tiles count favors white. That is to say, if they just kept playing flats, white would win the game. But this position looks quite balanced, and I would say it favors white. But certainly there is some play left. You can't be too complacent with this f2 wall looming, and this weak group could eventually get exposed. And it's not clear how white can profit from taking on c5. So this game definitely would have been very close. Could have very well ended in a draw, but if not for that slight blunder. But in any case, feel free to give any feedback you have about the analysis and any thoughts about the end position, which was this position. And I think this is really the only move. Unless black has some crazy way that they can go after this stack, but I don't think it works. If, for instance, they try to move over, white can do this and pin. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to looking for the sort of best game of the next round. Thanks.